Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Bone Practical video series. This is going to be the second in the series, and on this review we are going to cover the arm, hand, and wrist. So the bones, this would be articulated. We have the humerus, we have the ulna, the radius, and in the hand, we have the bones of the wrist, are collectively known as the carpals. We'll go into their individual names here shortly. We have the bones of the hand are the metacarpals, and then the fingers would be the phalanges. All right, so let's zoom in and start looking at the individual bones. All right, so here we have all the bones disarticulated except for the hand and the wrist. We're going to leave those articulated. I'm not going to just pull one carpal and leave it on the table by itself and say, hey, which one is this one? I am going to leave the hand and the wrist articulated, but the other bones will be disarticulated. All right, so let's go ahead and start on the humerus and talk about all of the individual parts we need to know on the humerus. So right off the bat, we'll start at the proximal end. This rounded structure is known as the head of the humerus. And then the large process on the outside here is called the greater tubercle, and the smaller one just on the inside of it is known as the lesser tubercle, and it's going to be towards the front or anterior of the humerus, and this is going to be more lateral or towards the outside of the humerus. And then we come down here to the other end where we have all of the components for the elbow joint, that hinge joint known as the elbow. And so we'll work our way around. This large process on the inside is the same side as the head, is going to be the medial epicondyle, and this bump on the other side is known as the lateral epicondyle. And remember, by definition, the epicondyle is a process that is going to be above the condyle, and the condyle is the smooth articular surface. These are given their own individual names because they are kind of a special, unique joint, but this pulley, as the definition of this surface, this condyle is known as a pulley-like. So if you imagine the wheel of a pulley, so this is going to be the trochlea on the humerus, and this more rounded condyle on the outside is known as the capitulum. And then you'll see there are two depressions. One is going to be right here. It's for the head of the radius, and we'll call that the radial fossa. And then this deeper depression right there is for the coronoid process on the ulna. So it's going to be the coronoid fossa. So again, let's run through them. We have medial epicondyle, trochlea, coronoid fossa, capitulum, radial fossa, and lateral epicondyle. And then we flip the bone over, and now we're on the back, or the posterior view of the distal end of the humerus. And this large depression right here is going to be for the olecranon process of the ulna. So this depression is the olecranon fossa. Speaking of the ulna, I'll pick this one up. So this large process that fits or articulates with that fossa on the humerus is known as the olecranon process, the coronoid process, which fits in the coronoid fossa of the humerus, and then this groove, this semicircular, also known as semilunar notch, is also sometimes called the trochlear notch because it articulates with the trochlea of the humerus. So again, we have semilunar or trochlear notch, coronoid process, olecranon process, and then down on the end, that small little point is the styloid process of the ulna. Then we go to the radius, and there's not a whole lot that you're responsible for on the radius, The disc portion at the top would be the head of the radius. The large process just underneath is going to be the radial tuberosity. And then down here at the wrist, this point is known as the styloid process of the radius. And so before we go to the hand and the wrist, we'll talk about how we know if the humerus is a right or a left. Of course, the head has to be medial. It has to point towards the body because this is going to make up your shoulder joint. And we've already discussed that this large process is the medial epicondyle. So, and this is always to the back. So we know this is to the back and this has to be medial. So this has to be a left because your shoulder is not going to be to the outside with your elbow up front. So they put your elbow to the back and we go on. If you imagine this on the right side, then that means your elbow is going to be away from your body, and that's not correct. So we have medial, this to the body, this is to the back. So we turn that away from the front and this to the inside. We know this is a left humerus. Okay, so let's go to the hand. And as we stated before, collectively, all of these bones in the wrist are known as the carpals. The bones in the hand are the metacarpals. The two bones for the thumb and the last three in each of the fingers are the phalanges, okay? So as far as we are concerned, metacarpals and phalanges, you only have two on the thumb, so you have a proximal and a distal phalange, and because you have three on each of your fingers, you have a proximal, a distal, and an intermediate phalange, and your metacarpals are all just metacarpals. I mean, we can name them 1 through 5, but metacarpals are good enough. Now let's start talking about the bones of the wrist, and I'll try to show this as best as I can. All right, so each of these has their own individual name, and we will go over how to learn them, what I think is the easiest way to learn them. We'll go, this would be palm down, or we could go palm up. All right, and either way, it kind of all works out to be the same. So where I always start is this guy right here. I go thumb right here. The one that's at the thumb, this is the trapezium because it rhymes with thumb. And we skip down to this next one. This is the scaphoid. So we're going to start here. We're going to work our way over to the pinky. We're going to come back and go this way. So we go scaphoid, lunate. This one is the triquetrium. And this little guy down here out on the end is known as the pisiform. So that's actually two bones, triquetrium and pisiform, even though they're kind of stuck together. Depending on the hand, these will be wired together. Those are actually, looks like one piece of plastic glued together, but that's just the way they make the fake ones. So let's start over. We go scaphoid, lunate, triquetrium, pisiform. We come back to the thumb and find the trapezium. Right next to it is trapezoid, and then it's capitate and hamate. And hamate is unique because it has two fingers that articulate the hands of the bone. You have two fingers and two metacarpals that articulate with that one carpal, whereas all the others just have 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 ratio. All right, so we'll go over it one more time. Palm down, we go scaphoid, lunate, triquetrium, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate. Okay, and there is a little mnemonic that you can use. You use the first letters of all of those bones, and you have this little saying to help you remember. And it goes, and you start with scaphoid, and it goes, stop letting those people touch the cadaver's hand. And you take the first letters of all of those words, and you just apply it to the names of the bones. So stop for scaphoid, letting lunate, those, triquetrium, people, pisiform, touch, trapezium, the, trapezoid, cadaver, capitate, hand, hamate. Okay, and then we'll flip it over and we'll study it palm up. The advantage to palm up is the hamate. The hamate has that hook, that process there that hooks on the hamate, and it's easy to find. So if we go in reverse, now here's the thumb on this side. So we're trapezium. And so now we go scaphoid, lunate, triquetrium, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and the hook has the hamate. Okay, so hopefully that will help you with the bones of the wrist. All right, that should do it for that run on the bones of the arm, hand, and wrist. So as always, if you have any questions, shoot me an email or come talk to me in class. We'll talk to you later.